Noam Chomsky is one of the most important intellectuals of our time. His influence spans across multiple disciplines, making him a towering figure in the realms of linguistics, philosophy, and political activism. Chomsky's work has not only shaped academic thought, but has also inspired countless individuals to question the status quo and seek deeper truths about the world we live in. He's a linguist, philosopher, and political activist. His contributions to the field of linguistics, particularly his theory of generative grammar, revolutionized our understanding of language and cognition. But Chomsky didn't stop there. He used his platform to delve into political discourse, critiquing the power structures that govern our societies. Chomsky has spent his life challenging those in power. He exposes their hypocrisy. Through his writings and speeches, he has consistently called out the injustices perpetrated by governments and corporations. His fearless approach to speaking truth to power has earned him both admiration and criticism, but he remains undeterred in his mission to advocate for justice and equality. He speaks out against injustice, whether it's the exploitation of workers, the erosion of civil liberties, or the devastating impacts of imperialism. Chomsky's voice has been a constant in the fight for human rights. His unwavering commitment to these causes has made him a beacon of hope for many who feel marginalized and oppressed. In his book, How the World Works, Chomsky takes on the big issues. This seminal work is a comprehensive analysis of the mechanisms of power and control that shape our world. Through meticulous research and incisive commentary, Chomsky dissects the complex interplay between politics, economics, and media, revealing the often hidden forces that influence our lives. He examines global power structures. Chomsky's insights into the geopolitical landscape are both profound and unsettling. He sheds light on the ways in which powerful nations manipulate global events to serve their own interests, often at the expense of the vulnerable and disenfranchised. His analysis challenges us to rethink our understanding of international relations and the true nature of power. He analyzes how governments control information. In an age where information is both a weapon and a commodity, Chomsky's critique of media and propaganda is more relevant than ever. He exposes the ways in which governments and corporations use media to shape public perception, control narratives, and maintain their dominance. His work encourages us to question the sources of our information and seek out the truth for ourselves. Chomsky helps us understand how the world really works. His ability to connect the dots between seemingly disparate events and phenomena provides a clearer picture of the underlying systems that govern our lives. By breaking down complex concepts into accessible language, Chomsky empowers us to see beyond the surface and grasp the deeper realities of our world. This book is essential reading for anyone who wants to understand the forces that shape our lives. It's a guide to navigating the often murky waters of politics and power, offering insights that are both enlightening and challenging. For those who seek to make sense of the world and their place in it, Chomsky's work is an invaluable resource. It's not always an easy read. The depth and breadth of Chomsky's analysis can be overwhelming, and his unflinching critique of power structures may be difficult to digest. But it's precisely this rigor and honesty that make his work so impactful. Chomsky doesn't shy away from the hard truths, and neither should we. But it's an important one. The challenges we face as a society are complex and multifaceted, and understanding them requires a willingness to engage with difficult material. Chomsky's work provides the tools we need to critically examine the world around us and to advocate for meaningful change. Chomsky's book is a wake-up call. It jolts us out of complacency and forces us to confront the uncomfortable realities of our world. By shining a light on the mechanisms of power and control, Chomsky challenges us to take action and to be more informed and engaged citizens. It forces us to confront uncomfortable truths. The realities that Chomsky exposes are not easy to face, but they are necessary for any meaningful change to occur. By acknowledging these truths, we can begin to address the root causes of injustice and work towards a more equitable and just society. But it also offers a glimmer of hope. Despite the daunting challenges we face, Chomsky's work reminds us that change is possible. By understanding the forces at play, we can better navigate the path towards a brighter future. His message is one of empowerment and resilience, encouraging us to believe in our ability to make a difference. Chomsky believes that change is possible. He has faith in the power of collective action and the potential for individuals to effect change. His work serves as a call to arms, urging us to stand up against injustice and to fight for a better world, but only if we're willing to fight for it. The road to change is not easy, and it requires courage, determination, and a willingness to challenge the status quo. Chomsky's work inspires us to take up this mantle and to strive for a world that is more just, equitable, and free. Chomsky argues that most people don't really understand how power works. He suggests that the complexity of political systems and the deliberate obfuscation by those in power make it difficult for the average person to grasp the true dynamics at play. This lack of understanding is not accidental but rather a result of a system designed to keep people in the dark. We think we live in democracies. We participate in elections, we see our leaders on TV, and we believe that our votes matter. The rituals of democracy are all around us, from the campaign rallies to the voting booths. These rituals give us the impression that we are in control, that we have a say in how our societies are run. We believe that our leaders represent our interests. We trust that the politicians we elect will fight for our needs and concerns. We see them shaking hands with citizens, attending town hall meetings, and making promises to improve our lives. This belief is reinforced by the media and the political system itself, which constantly tells us that our voices are being heard. But Chomsky says this is an illusion. He argues that the real decisions are made behind closed doors by people who are not accountable to the public. These shadowy figures operate in the background, pulling the strings and shaping policies to serve their own interests. The public faces of democracy are just that. Faces, masks that hide the true nature of power. He argues that real power rests with a small elite. This elite is composed of wealthy individuals and powerful corporations who have the resources to influence political decisions. They live in a world of luxury and exclusivity, far removed from the everyday struggles of ordinary people. Their wealth and connections give them access to the corridors of power, where they can shape policies to benefit themselves. This elite controls the economy. It influences governments. Through their control of major industries and financial institutions, they can dictate economic policies and priorities. They have the ear of politicians and can lobby for laws and regulations that favor their interests. The media, often owned by these same elites, plays a crucial role in shaping public perception and opinion, and it shapes public opinion. The media is a powerful tool in the hands of the elite, used to manipulate and control the narrative. By controlling what information is disseminated and how it is presented, they can influence how people think and feel about important issues. This control over information ensures that the public remains compliant and unaware of the true nature of power. This elite benefits from the status quo. They have no incentive to change a system that works in their favor. Their wealth and power are maintained by keeping things as they are, by ensuring that the structures of society continue to serve their interests. Any significant change would threaten their position, so they work to maintain the status quo at all costs. It has no interest in changing it. When people demand change, their voices are often ignored or suppressed. Protests and movements for social justice are met with resistance, and the promises of politicians often go unfulfilled. The system is designed to absorb and neutralize dissent, ensuring that the power dynamics remain unchanged. Chomsky calls this the concentration of power. He warns that when power is concentrated in the hands of a few, it poses a significant threat to democracy. This concentration of power undermines the principles of equality and representation that are supposed to be the foundation of democratic societies. It creates a system where the interests of the few outweigh the needs of the many. He says it's a threat to democracy. True democracy requires that power be distributed among the people, that everyone has an equal say in how their society is run. When a small group holds all the power, democracy becomes a facade, a hollow shell that no longer serves its intended purpose. This threat to democracy is not just theoretical, it has real and tangible effects on people's lives. When a small group of people has all the power, the rest of us are left voiceless. Our concerns and needs are sidelined, and our ability to influence the direction of our society is diminished. This lack of representation leads to frustration and disillusionment, as people feel that their voices do not matter. The sense of powerlessness can be overwhelming, leaving individuals feeling isolated and disconnected from the political process. We need to be aware of how power operates. Understanding the true nature of power is the first step in challenging it. By educating ourselves and others, we can begin to see through the illusions and recognize the structures that keep us oppressed. Knowledge is a powerful tool, and it can empower us to take action and demand change. We need to understand how the system is rigged against us. The more we learn about the mechanisms of power, the better equipped we will be to challenge them. Recognizing the ways in which the system is designed to benefit the few at the expense of the many is crucial. This understanding can help us to develop strategies to counteract these forces and work towards a more just and equitable society. Only then can we start to challenge it. Armed with knowledge and awareness, we can begin to organize and mobilize for change. By coming together and demanding accountability, we can work to dismantle the structures of power that oppress us. It will not be easy, but it is necessary if we are to create a truly democratic society where everyone has a voice and the power is truly in the hands of the people. Chomsky argues that war is a business. It's not just any business, but one of the most lucrative industries in the world. The production of military equipment, the development of advanced weaponry, and the constant need for new technology create a continuous demand that fuels this industry. This demand is met by defense contractors who are more than willing to supply the necessary tools of war. And it's a very profitable one. The financial gains for companies involved in the defense sector are astronomical. These companies see their profits soar with every new conflict, every new military engagement. The stock prices of these corporations often rise in direct correlation with the announcement of new military actions. Executives and shareholders reap the benefits, while the human cost of these conflicts is often overlooked. He points to the close relationship between governments and the defense industry. This relationship is not just a matter of business transactions, it is deeply embedded in the political fabric of many nations. Defense contractors often have former military officials and government leaders on their boards, ensuring that their interests are well represented in policy decisions. This revolving door between the military, government, and defense industry creates a network of influence that is hard to break. This relationship creates a powerful incentive for war. When the same people who profit from war are also in positions of power to make decisions about going to war, the likelihood of conflict increases. Lobbying efforts by defense contractors ensure that military spending remains a priority, often at the expense of other critical areas such as education, healthcare, and infrastructure. This is what President Eisenhower called the military-industrial complex. In his farewell address, he warned of the dangers of this powerful alliance. He cautioned that the influence of the military-industrial complex could lead to unnecessary wars and a distortion of national priorities. His words were a prescient warning that remains relevant today. It's a system where corporations lobby for military spending. These corporations spend millions of dollars on lobbying efforts to ensure that their interests are protected. They fund political campaigns, sponsor think tanks, and engage in public relations campaigns to shape public opinion. The result is a political environment where military spending is rarely questioned and often increased. Governments then use this spending to justify going to war. It's a vicious cycle. The more money that is spent on the military, the more justification there is for using that military. This leads to a perpetual state of conflict, where the interests of the defense industry are prioritized over the well-being of citizens. Chomsky argues that the real victims of war are always ordinary people. These are the individuals who bear the brunt of the violence and destruction. Families are torn apart, communities are destroyed, and lives are irrevocably changed. The human cost of war is immense, and it is often the most vulnerable who suffer the most. They are the ones who fight and die in these wars. Soldiers, many of whom come from working-class backgrounds, are sent to fight in conflicts that they have little say in. They risk their lives and often return home with physical and psychological scars. The toll on military families is profound, with many struggling to cope with the aftermath of war. They are the ones who suffer the consequences. The destruction of homes, the displacement of people, and the long-term impact on communities are all part of the collateral damage of war. The resources that could be used to rebuild and support these communities are instead funneled into the military-industrial complex, perpetuating a cycle of violence and neglect. We need to be skeptical of government claims about war. It is essential to question the narratives that are presented to justify military actions. Often these narratives are crafted to serve the interests of the powerful, rather than the needs of the people. Public scrutiny and accountability are crucial in preventing unnecessary conflicts. We need to ask tough questions. Who benefits from these wars? What are the true costs? Are there alternatives to conflict? These are the questions that need to be asked and answered. Engaging in informed and critical discussions about war and peace is essential for creating a more just and equitable world. We need to understand who benefits from these conflicts. By following the money and examining the interests at play, we can begin to unravel the complex web of the military-industrial complex. Only then can we work towards a future where peace is prioritized over profit and the true costs of war are fully acknowledged and addressed. Section 4, The Vietnam War, a case study in propaganda. Chomsky uses the Vietnam War to illustrate his points. He argues that the United States government misled the public about the war. They used propaganda to justify their actions. They portrayed the war as a fight for freedom, but in reality, it was about U.S. economic and political interests. Chomsky shows how the media played a role in this deception. They repeated the government's lies. They failed to challenge the official narrative. The Vietnam War was a tragedy. It was based on lies. It cost countless lives, and it achieved nothing. Section 5. The Iraq Invasion, a preemptive war built on lies. Chomsky argues that the 2003 invasion of Iraq was another example of a war based on lies. The Bush administration claimed that Iraq had weapons of mass destruction, but no such weapons were ever found. Chomsky argues that the real motive for the invasion was oil. He says the United States wanted to control Iraq's oil reserves. And they were willing to lie to the public to do it. The Iraq War was a disaster. It destabilized the entire region. It led to the rise of ISIS, and it cost trillions of dollars.